Hello, it's Dawn Michelle and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to take a look at the new Wild and Sacred Feminine deck that I recently picked up on Amazon. Now, I originally wasn't going to get this deck because as beautiful as it is, I was like, oh, I have a lot of decks that kind of have that wild, sacred, feminine energy. And then I saw this deck featured on somebody's channel, and I really wish I could remember who it was, but it was several weeks ago now at that point. And they had mentioned how the deck was by the same team of authors and illustrators as the Mother's Wisdom deck. I thought it was really cool that this is kind of the next evolution from this creator team, where we have Nikki Duart and Elizabeth Marglin is, I believe, the authors, and the illustrations are by Jenny Kostick-Shaw. Hopefully I pronounced all those correctly. The same team that has done this deck. Since it's by the same team and artist, I felt like when the first time I looked through this deck with my members, I thought maybe there were some repeating cards, but it could just be because like it's the same illustrator. So the cards do look similar, which is great. I have put my Mother's Wisdom deck all back in order according to the guidebook, so we'll definitely go through it in order as it was intended, because there are categories within this Oracle deck, same as there are in the Wild Sacred Feminine deck. So having put my Mother's Wisdom deck back in order, I do know that there are some repeat cards that cross over across these two decks. Now, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing given the fact that the Mother's Wisdom deck is currently out of print. So if you've been wanting to get your hands on this deck, I think that this is going to be a really good alternative to that. It is currently available mass market. And again, this out of print goes for ridiculous prices. I bought it back when it was still in print. I'll be curious to see how much they cross over. And I do want to see if the messages are similar in the guidebook, because having gone through them both to put them both back in order, I do know that there are quite a few crossovers. There is a system or kind of categories to both of these decks. So before we jump in, I kind of just want to see if they align. I have the Mother's Wisdom deck in the categories listed in the guidebook here, which are the Nature Mother, the Animal Mother, the Ancestral Mother, and the Divine Mother. And I want to compare that to the categories that we have in the Wild and Sacred Feminine. Again, these are two different publishers, so the books are different. You can see the Wild Feminine, Wild Sacred and Feminine is quite a bit smaller. This has those kind of glossier pages, and this is regular paper. So it looks like for our categories here, we have the Wild Feminine, which does appear to be the animal cards. And I can see here just glancing at the contents that there are several overlaps. Then we have Elemental Feminine, which appears to be the same as the Nature Mother over here in the Wild Wisdom. So then we have the Archetypal Feminine in the Wild and Sacred deck, and Ancestral Mother in the Mother's Wisdom, and I feel like there's definitely some crossover here, although maybe not as much as in some of the other categories. And then we have Divine Feminine in the Wild deck, and the Divine Mother in the Mother's Wisdom, and definitely seeing some crossover there. So I'm going to put them in their categories side by side. They are also in alphabetical order in their categories, and we'll just go through and see where the cards align and where it goes its own way. Okay, so I've got the two decks side by side in alphabetical order and in their related categories. So we're going to start first with the category that is considered the Wild Feminine in the new deck, and the Animal Mother in the old deck. And that's how I'm going to refer to them from here on out, because if I have to keep saying the Wild and Sacred Feminine deck and the Mother's Wisdom deck, like I'm going to trip over my own words. So we have a bear here for protection in the older deck, and butterfly starts are sort of animals with transformation here, and you can see that here we have the butterfly with the transformation card. The artwork is different. The keywords are the same. We'll be looking in the guidebook to see how much of a change there is there as well. I feel like the new deck is a little bit more diverse, and the older deck definitely focuses on more of those mother related images. You can see here like the sort of butterfly mother with the butterfly child here. So definitely different in the imagery with this card, but the keyword and the title are the same. So next we have Dear with Gentleness in both decks. Again, the artwork is different, the keywords and title is the same. Again, seeing that mother energy with the mother and child here, and here we just see the one female figure, and we have the white stag, which can be significant. Then we have Dolphin for embodiment in the new deck and Dolphin child within in the old deck. So this is really interesting because it's the same kind of concept, but here we're focusing on kind of the embodiment of the inner child, and here we're focusing on embodiment maybe in a much fuller sense. Again, we'll definitely have to take a look in the guidebook. Clearly, completely different imagery. There is an elephant card in the Mother's Wisdom, which I really love for strength. We'll have to see if we can note where that keyword might appear elsewhere. And then we have horse with freedom in both decks. Again, the artwork is different in both of these decks. So that's kind of interesting too, because even though we're getting repeating titles and repeating keywords, the imagery is different. So there could be some something said to that as well. And then I say that, and then here we have the hummingbird, which is the exact same card, basically. Hummingbird with joy in both decks. We'll talk about cardstock and all of that here in a moment when we get through the cards. Next we have Lioness with courage. Again, new artwork in the new deck, same keyword, same title. I do like this art better. I feel like, you know, as every artist does, as the more you do it, the better you get, the more refined your process becomes. And I think we can see that in the new deck quite well. The Mother's Wisdom has a monkey card for Trickster. I do kind of love that energy, and I think his face is super cute. So here we have the owl with awareness in both decks. Again, the artwork feels a little bit more refined. It is the same image though, like the same basic concept. We have the owl on the branch in the night sky, and then we have the trees with the person over here. So same concept, just perhaps redrawn to be a little bit more refined. I do really like the artwork in the Mother's Wisdom. It has almost like a childlike quality to it that really is quite endearing, but I think we retain quite a bit of that in the new deck as well. So in the new deck, we have a raven card for magic, which I think is really, really cool. We don't have that same association in the old deck, so we're gonna skip that one and go to the snake card for life force, which we have in both cards or both decks. I think this image is quite powerful, so I really like it. This one is like a little bit more charming. It feels more like dancing with the snakes, whereas this feels like embodying the snake from the inside out, which is quite interesting. Both cards have a swan with grace, and you can see the artwork is the same. Maybe a little bit variations on the color, because I feel like we can see more of the background texture here in the brown than we can over here. But again, that's just different printings and different card stocks. Turtle for grounding in both decks. I do feel like these are slightly different images. We have the circle is above the body here, or the square with the circle cut out is above the body on top of it here, and here it's beneath it. The background is obviously darker, and we have removed some of the lily pads in this card. I do quite like this one because I feel like the lily pad really gives us the idea of the turtle being submerged in water while grounded, which I think is really cool. So we have a whale card with memory, and you know me, I love a whale card, so I'm real excited to see that inclusion in this deck. I think that's a great addition to have. We also have the additional wolf card in the new deck with mastery, which again is a wonderful addition to the deck. I think that's really cool. So in that first category, we had the same amount of cards. There's 13 in each, and we've had the majority of the cards have been the same. There's some different artwork in it. We've had some cards that have been basically changed. They're in this deck, but not in this one, and vice versa. So that's quite interesting to note. So moving along, we have the elemental feminine category in the new deck, and that corresponds to the nature mother in the old deck. So you can see here that we're starting off with cave with both of these cards. Again, the art feels like a little bit maybe a little bit richer here in this particular printing. It's also not quite as zoomed in as we have here in this one, but I do feel like it's the same artwork. So in our new deck, we have Desert, an additional card with Solitude, which I think is quite lovely. I really love this image. We also have Lotus with Resilience here in the new deck. We don't have either one of those cards in the old deck, but we have Lake for Serenity. So that's quite interesting. Both decks have moon cards. It is the same moon card. Again, lovely image with Rhythm. Both cards have the Mountain with Presence. And both cards have the Ocean with Source. So as I was flipping through this with my member, I was like, I'm pretty sure I recognize a lot of these cards. And clearly I do. We also have Pearl with Authenticity. So here we have a Rainbow with Forgiveness, and again, we see new artwork. I do really like this one because I feel like the rainbow is a part of her, whereas here we feel like this person is kind of stepping through the rainbow. It's, again, a slightly different interpretation based upon the artwork. So I think that's really cool. I like that we have some different art in this. We have some changes that have been made there because maybe I might want to use both. We have River for Surrender. I do really like this new River card. I think it's quite beautiful. This one is lovely, but it doesn't have quite the earthy richness that I think the new card has. So in the old deck, we have Shell for Listening. That's not included in the new one. It's a beautiful card. They both have smoke, same imagery, same keywords with gratitude. Both cards have a Star with Wonder. Again, you can see here really tapping into that mother energy because we have the mother with the child reaching for the star. And here we have the solitary person looking out up at the stars. I really love this new card. For a Mother's Wisdom deck, this card is quite fitting, I think, but this deck feels kind of more open, less tied into that very specific mother energy, which I think they've done a really good job of kind of addressing that balance. So an additional card over here in the new deck, we have Threshold with Intention. I love that card. I love the idea of stepping through that portal, that threshold, that gateway. That's a really important concept in my practice, so I'm excited to see it here. Then we have the Tree of Life with Connection. Again, new imagery. I was always quite fond of this card with all of these sort of animals and everything on the outside, kind of showing that circular connection, that kind of wheel of life kind of an energy, and all the people are what kind of spins around and around. Gives me the idea of like ancestral energy. But in here, I like that the roots are actually kind of more part of the person. Here we see the person is kind of in the tree trunk, where here the person actually is the tree of life. And so again, a really interesting, different kind of concept. Each card gives me different vibes. The Mother's Wisdom has the additional card of Wind with Adventure, which I think is really lovely. So now we're moving into our next category, which is the archetypal feminine in the new deck and the ancestral mother in the old deck. And those kind of loosely relate to each other. And I say loosely because I feel like there are more cards that are different in this category than maybe the others. These two cards, neither one appear in the other deck, so they're unique to their deck. The Crone with Wisdom is a card specifically in the new deck, which I think is absolutely lovely. Probably wouldn't have been super appropriate in a Mother's Wisdom deck, of course, but I love that addition in here because, again, I was hoping that this would feel very much in that Crone energy. These two cards are the same, really similar imagery, although it just looks like the spiral has maybe, or the circles have maybe been condensed down here, a little bit smaller in this one. And again, the colors are a little bit different in the backgrounds. Keywords and titles are the same. So again, we have the two different cards here, the Lover with Intimacy and Lady Godiva with Humility. Again, they don't correspond with each other or with the decks. Those are unique cards to each of those decks. Again, here we have two cards that are unique to the decks themselves. We have Mary with Unconditional Love in the old deck and Maiden with Innocence in the new deck. Perhaps that might correspond more to that mother nurturing energy that we get in the new deck. But again, they don't align. They're not exactly the same. Artwork is different. So again, here we have two cards that are unique to their own decks, with the Mirror and Self-Love in the old deck and the Muse with Inspiration in the new deck. Two unique cards to their deck. We do have Mystic with Devotion over here and Intention in the old deck. We have Priestess with Intuition, and over here we have Japti, which I may be mispronouncing, with Patience. And again, I feel like one of the things that they did with this deck was to kind of remove some of those more specific titles or those more specific personified energies and made them a little bit more open-ended with like Priestess and Mother and Mystic rather than individual personalities or archetypes or people. We have Queen with Sovereignty over here and the Pythia with Intuition. We have Rebel with Revolutionary and Sappho with Inspiration. I feel like this is probably like related back to the Muse card that we saw earlier in the new deck. We have Sarah with Faith in the old deck and Shapeshifter with Fluidity in the new deck. And here you can see we have Traveler with Faith. So I think that some of the key ideas were taken from the old deck and then given kind of a less specific title. So we have two additional cards in the Mother's Wisdom with the Queen of Sheba for Wisdom and Queen Victoria for Sovereignty. Oh, three more cards and Tolerance. Okay, so now we're moving into the last category, which is the Divine Feminine in the new deck and relates to the Divine Mother in the old deck. And these do align fairly closely. As you'll see here, both beauty, same artwork. Over here we have an edition of Artemis with Untamed. I think that's quite lovely. We have Bridget with Hearth. Over here, it's Bridget with Peace. So that's interesting. Totally kind of different energies for these two cards. This, she definitely feels like out in the winter time outside. And here she feels like maybe she's in some sort of a place, a cave that's much more green. And it feels like more internal, where this feels more external. So really interesting when you look at those in the artwork and how they differ. So over here we have Demeter with Loss and Hathor with Celebration. Again, those don't really line up. We'll kind of try to catch up over here. So we have Celebration here instead. And again, same keyword, but different goddesses. So that totally changes, in my opinion, totally changes the energy of the card. So over here we have Anana with Wholeness, and then we have our Nurturing card over here. Again, very different energies. They do not really align. We have Isis over here in the Mother's Wisdom with Devotion. I love that card. It's one of my favorites. We do have Michelle in both of them. Here we have Weaving and here we have Midwife. So again, same artwork, feels a little richer in the new deck. And very different keywords though, so that really brings a different energy, because weaving for me really makes sense with this. Midwife is much more of a keyword that's tied into sort of motherhood and mother energy, right? This card to me with this keyword is more about birthing something, whereas here where it's more about we're creating something. Again, it's semantics. It's the same kind of energy, right? If we birth it, we create it. If we create it, we birth it. It's the same thing. But I feel like the keywords here, I like it better in the new deck because it just feels more in alignment. Both decks have Kali Ma with Fierce Love. I do really like this new depiction. She does feel a bit more fierce in this one, and she feels a little bit softer, more approachable in this, which again probably isn't really as in alignment with Kali's energy, but I think it's a beautiful image. We have Kuan Yin with Compassion in both decks. Again, love this new image with that very watery vibe here. We're pulling in that color. Again, we do have, you know, the sort of birthing the world. Here is the pregnant belly. Here we're sitting in a lotus. Here not so much. But I just feel like this sort of card, this depiction really drops into that really watery, compassionate, emotional energy of Kuan Yin. Both decks have Lashmi with Abundance. I think they're both beautiful. I like the colors in this one. Like, it's not really a comparison, right? Same card here. Again, the colors feel a little bit more vibrant in the new deck, which is quite lovely. So in the new deck, we have Our Lady of Guadalupe with Unconditional Love. I believe that that was the title or the keyword that they attributed to the Mother Mary card in the old deck. We'd have to double check, but that is kind of a card specific to this deck. Same card here, different keywords though. So we have reciprocity over here and earth honoring over here. I kind of like this one better. There's slight differences in the artwork actually when you look up close. This one feels a little bit closer in. You can see kind of where it's cropped off right here at the little cow or bull, whatever that is. And we have a person here that we don't see in this card, and clearly the faces have been changed. I do like this one better. I think it feels a little bit more vibrant. And both decks have a white buffalo calf woman with integrity. Again, same image. The coloration just feels a little bit more dark on this one. And there's our comparison of our backs. I do really like these new backs. I think they're quite beautiful, although I don't have an issue with the backs on this deck at all. So they both have 52 cards. I want to go ahead and take a little peek at the guidebook. And then let's do a quick card comparison. They're actually similar cardstock. Unfortunately, the Mother's Wisdom is just slightly smaller. That is not to say that I couldn't modify this deck to make it the same size. Like, I could literally just like trim off a teeny tiny bit on the top and one side, and make them, you know, the same size so that I could use them together. But I don't know that I need to. So what I wanted to see is compare the guidebooks really quick, just because I'm gonna move the decks out of the way for the moment. Let's pick two cards that are the same. Let's just go ahead and go with the butterfly transformation cards. So we'll start with, yes, this way. Let's put them up here. We have two different butterflies with the same keywords. Like I said, the cardstock feels actually fairly similar. The new deck, or the old deck, feels a little bit more coated. And the old deck has a little bit more of a glossy coating on it, and the newer deck is a little bit more matte, but like it's barely noticeable. You have to really kind of feel for it. Clearly the titles are a little bit smaller. I actually like the design on the new deck better, we just have this nice colored border, and we have the text in a really nice, easy to read font, because one of my complaints with this deck is that I'm not really a fan of this kind of double layering here that we have, as far as like the dark color and then the light color. I'm sure they did that to try and help the font stand out. But again, the font on this deck, the titles, are really hard to read in some of the cards. So I'm glad to see it more in a kind of a more friendly font. I think that's going to be really helpful. So let's go ahead and jump into Butterfly, and let's see old versus new, what it says. We can, I guess, check the sort of introduction. They talk about, as this deck was coming into being, they spent a lot of time contemplating and conjuring the sacred feminine. And this one says, we conceived the Mother's Wisdom deck to honor the daily rites of mothering and to offer inspiration for this lifelong journey. With so many of the cards overlapping, like, which one is it? Because this one is clearly focusing more on just kind of the feminine archetype on the whole, and this one is very much focused on the mother archetype. So that's kind of interesting, how it's kind of taking like a different approach to the introduction. Because this one is definitely like, this deck celebrates the alchemy of mothering and the mysterious transmutation it entails. The Wild and Sacred Feminine deck was born to evoke the sacred feminine, that embodied life-giving manifestation of the divine that shapes everything into the vessel for the body. So it's clearly taking two different approaches to it, even though like a lot of the art and the keywords and the titles and the concept is the same. So here they do talk about, so I'm glad to see this. It says, it is in the spirit that this deck was born when Shambhala, I apologize if I mispronounced that, Publications asked us to write this deck as a broader reincarnation of the Mother's Wisdom deck that the three of us created 3 years ago. We were unequivocally honored. The first thing we did was send out a prayer to the Divine Feminine asking her to show up, and show up she did. So they do acknowledge that this deck is a reincarnation. Sure, that's a great word. Let's go with that. It's a reincarnation of this old deck. However, this old deck was very clearly focused on the mother archetype, and now we're kind of broadening to include the divine feminine. So this looks like this is exactly the same. So here we have turning to the cards, and here it's how to use the deck. Or pretty close to it, like through the ages, oracles have served as a portal of divination for those seeking insight from the divine. It says through the ages, oracles have served as a portal of divine revelation and self-discovery. The enduring nature of the medium speaks to its combined potency and accessibility. Like that's the same. So a lot of it is similar in that way. Not that it really matters because this deck is no longer in print. So if you don't have it, you can't get it. So like, I'm okay with that because again, I know of a lot of people personally who really wanted the Mother's Wisdom deck. So I am glad to see that they have retained kind of that base energy and spirit of the original deck and have kind of just, I feel like broadened it is really what they've done. So there are some spreads, the Mother-Child Daily Spread, which has been replaced with the Wild and Sacred Daily Spread. Visualize the mother-child relationship imbalance. Visualize your wholeness. I mean, this spread has just basically been rewritten to work with this, the new theme rather than the old theme. I mean, that's fine. We all use the same spread positions for all kinds of stuff and then just change it to suit our need, right? So we have the Grandmother Moon spread, that's the same in both. The Path of the Wisdom spread, that looks like the same in both. Harmonizing spread, Stillwater spread, like there's a lot of spreads actually in this book, or in these two books. So then we have our moving into the cards. Okay, so, and I gotta find, because these are in a different order in the books. All right, so we have Butterfly Transformation, Shadow, meaning is resistance. I do like that both decks, both books combine or include a shadow meaning. We have different quotes here. Here we have a quote by Adrienne Rich, and here we have a quote by Kim Rosin. So it looks like the text has actually been rewritten, so that's really great. Because the base concept of the decks are different. I'm glad to see that because it wouldn't be quite so easy to just take a deck that is solely focused on the mother archetype and then try to apply that to the larger divine feminine archetype on the whole, because it wouldn't really line up. Like mother is a very specific archetype, where divine feminine, there's a lot that is layered under that umbrella. So I think that's really cool. I'm glad to see that they have done a little bit of rewriting. Again, the old book really talks a lot about motherhood and children, and like we have like wrap your child in the fabric of home while together you metabolize the transition swirling around you. As changes shake your child's world and baffles her sense of self, outcroppings of misbehavior may protrude. So like this one is very tied into if you are a mother. And I'll be honest, that is one of the reasons why I haven't been working with this deck as much as I used to when I first got it. Because like it really is tied into like mothers and children, and while I am a mother, my children are adults, so a lot of what was in here didn't really apply. I tried to approach it kind of as that mothering myself, which I do think it works well for, but I didn't quite make the connection in that way. So I actually think that the new deck is going to connect for me personally even better because of where I am in my life, right? And here we're talking about like the rites of passage for yourself, for, you know, rites of passage support individuals as they shed previous incarnations and cross the threshold of becoming. Even in simple ways, you can harness the power of ritual to help initiate yourself into a new embodiment. Burn something to symbolize letting go, take a walk about the land to mark your transition, or circle up with friends to celebrate your rebirth. I really, really like that. I'm really excited to see that it has been rewritten with a focus more on the self, maybe the divine feminine or the wild and sacred feminine of self versus specifically on mothers. So I think it's really a great change, actually. I'm really excited to see it. I was just kind of curious, you know, where things aligned, and I just needed to do this for myself, so I thought we'd just do it together. I think I kind of, like, this kind of feels like the Hay House cardstock a little bit. And this is just like, it's a little bit more glossy. I would like to now, I'm just gonna have a play because that's what we're gonna do. My takeaway is I think this new deck is really gonna align for me a lot better. So I definitely want to spend some time working with it. And my mother's wisdom doesn't always get a lot of play in my collection and in my practice, because again, it's so tied into mother energy that sometimes it's really specific and it's hard to get around that. So I kind of just wanted to do a quick little like flip through. Is there anything that like isn't in one that is in the other? So like bear, that's a new one. Deer is good. Dolphin we have. Elephant. I'm gonna miss not having an elephant in here, I'll be honest, because I love elephant, but I want to see where the differences are. Okay, so I've gone through just kind of like for my own understanding, my own use of this deck. I wanted to see exactly where the differences were. So these cards are all the same. So meaning they have the same keywords and titles, or meaning the same things, even though sometimes the artwork might be different. And as I was flipping through here, I found some cards that are the same. They just have, the titles have been changed, like this one. Isis is not in the new deck, which is very disappointing for me. And Our Lady of Guadalupe, I did see her in the, because I saw that imagery. So here she is here, and she's just Mary, unconditional love. So same image, same keyword. So we're gonna call those the same. So let me see here. This whole section is quite different. So let me make some room, and we are gonna have like a serious play here. And I'm gonna lay these ones out and see maybe, and I'm just gonna go by the keywords here, because maybe that will tell me. Because these are all in that one category, as you can see. And I feel like these are going to align. Like there's a lot of them though. Okay, let's start making piles over here. Pretty sure Crone doesn't show up, but Wisdom does. Okay, let me pull these out. So let's see if we can find ones that align. Thankfully, they are different backs and cardstock, so I won't lose anything. So nurturing, do we have a nurturing? We do not. Oh, yes, we do, mother. Okay, so, oh look, it's the same image. Okay, perfect. Those go over there. So we have celebration. I feel like we did see that. So we've replaced, oh, that's right. We've replaced the goddess. I'm actually okay with that because I love the energy of Hathor. I think that works really well. Loss. Do we have a loss? I do not see a loss, and that is a little bit sad. So that one is unique in itself. Tolerance. I do not see a tolerance. Okay. Sovereignty. We have Queen. So this is interesting. Here's the Queen of Sheba in the Mother's Wisdom deck, and the Queen with Sovereignty in the new deck, which I think that works really well. Again, we've taken that Queen of Sheba energy and applied it here and just kind of given it a more generic title in a sense. And here we have Queen Victoria as Sovereignty. I actually do like this better because like there can be a lot of things wrapped into using actual like people or, you know, myths or legends or things like that. There can be a lot of, like, let's face it, baggage that comes along with that. So I like it being a little bit more open because I can see this as being Queen Sovereignty in my own right, not necessarily tying in so completely with that Queen of Sheba or the Queen Victoria energy. Because again, same artwork here, different keywords, but you can see where I'm going with that. Faith, I'm pretty sure we saw that. So Faith, we have Traveler. That's really cool. I do actually like that a lot better. Sappho, we have Inspiration. And here we have the Muse. I mean, that works. Different artwork, but I like this. I like that kind of more open-ended energy of the Muse. Intuition, we have the Priestess. Here we have the Pythia. I mean, these are beautiful. I really, really like these, but I do feel like the openness of the new deck is going to be allow me to use it in more ways in my practice. So we have Patience. No Patience. We'll have to see if that keyword comes up somewhere else. So Mother Meng with Intention. I do not see Intention, but I feel like we might have seen that in another card. Mirror for Self-Love. I don't recall seeing that anywhere. Devotion. I know we saw that. That was our Isis card. Okay, so like this one makes me a little sad, but that's just because Isis is a personified deity that I actually work with in my practice. But I could always pull this card out and just keep it for use for my own stuff. Again, I feel like this is just much more open as a workable oracle deck. So Humility. I don't see that, and that is a great keyword, and I do really love the Lady Godiva imagery with humility. I think that works really well. So I'm a little sad to see that one not included. Creativity. I'm going to be really sad if there's not a creativity card, but maybe we'll find it elsewhere. Adventure. I don't see that one. Listening. I don't see that one. Serenity. And these may be in some of the other, like Intention. Okay, so we just saw that, but we'll go back through because I see the Intention card. It's over here off to the side. Trickster, I definitely didn't see that. Strength, didn't see that anywhere. I'm real sad to lose these two cards, the Bear and the Elephant. I really, really wish they would have included them. So again, really sad not to have those. So let's see here. Let's pull out the rest of these. And see, so fluidity is a new keyword, or perhaps it shows up elsewhere. Revolutionary, Untamed, Wisdom with the Crone, Maiden. I do love that we have the Maiden Mother Crone in this deck, which is cool. Like just that basic personification, which I think is really neat. So then we have Solitude, Resilience, Intention. There they are. So I think those were in here. Real sad about those. I'm gonna pull those out. Listening, Serenity. No creativity, huh? That's a bit. Real sad about that one. Real sad about that one. Intention. Okay, so there's our Intention, which has been replaced with Threshold, and I'm real good with that. I like that change. So no Patience still. Intuition, Inspiration. No, we saw that. Did I pick up the wrong pile? I might have. Oh, Loss was one. Solitude, Resilience. Okay, so those seem like maybe they are kind of unique to this deck. And now I've got such a mess here that I don't even know. I don't even know where I'm at. Okay. So yeah, I really like this actually. Okay, let me look through. What am I super sad about losing? Isis for sure, Lady Godiva, also because I love the keyword of humility, the Bear for protection, and the Elephant for strength. Like, I'm super sad to lose those. Let me just do a quick flip through. And the rest of these we have. So all but these ones and these ones, I think. There's a few cards in here that like just aren't included. I couldn't find the keywords, I couldn't find the energies. That doesn't mean that they aren't there, that I didn't miss them on first pass. The rest of the deck is in here. So all of the cards, the majority of the old deck is in the new deck. But I'm super sad to not have these cards, and I wish, like I really wish they were the same size. And to be perfectly honest, I might just throw them in there anyway, because like it's okay that they're not quite the same. I mean, it would make, I wouldn't be able to riffle it, but I could overhand it. I'm just gonna kind of pull those out separate, and we'll do that. So I can think about whether or not I really am that heartbroken about not having 4 cards in the deck. Okay, so like overall, I'm real excited for this new deck. I feel like the keywords are much broader, they're much more expansive. I do like a lot of the new artwork here that has been included. I think a lot of the new cards that have been added are really cool. And again, like changing all those real specific energies or real specific people or mythologies, I think is really helpful. This is quite specific. I'm kind of curious as to why they left just a handful of really specific ones. But like overall, I think it's a much more open-ended or much more broad and expansive use of this type of an energy. And I think it's a good improvement actually. And it's available mass market. So like it's definitely got that going for it. I think that this deck, if you have like been sad because you missed out on the Mother's Wisdom, I think this is a really, really good alternative. If you watch the whole going through all the cards, there's only a few cards really that don't appear in the new deck. And like you saw, there's only 4 that I'm like super sad about that, you know, I feel like I might need to put in here, or I don't know, pull those out or do something with. But I feel like if this is a deck that you've been trying to get a hold of, this is a great alternative. I also feel like if this is a deck you've had or you do currently have, but you haven't been able to connect with it because it is so tied into that mother energy, that mother archetype, again, I think this is a good alternative because it takes that same kind of energy, I think the underlying structure and energy of the deck, and kind of strips that mother layer out of it and focuses more on the divine feminine on the whole, less on the specific mother archetype. So I feel like that's a really, really good change. I think that's going to make it where it will be much more open for me personally to use in my practice, but I think for others as well. Real quick, let's just talk about like the cardstock. Let's give it a shuffle. I already mentioned that like it's really, really similar to the Hay House cardstock. It's not as thick though, so hopefully it'll shuffle better. Because while I don't mind the feel of the Hay House cardstock, it's super thick and it doesn't shuffle well. These, however, riffle and bridge nicely. So yeah, I think this is going to be a really great addition to my practice. And in fact, I might just, you know, put my Mother's Wisdom deck away for a little while and, you know, try giving this one a go to see how it works, because I feel like it's going to really fit into my practice much better. It's much more open. The keywords for the most part and the energies represented in this particular deck have a much closer tie-in to my personal practice, again, because while I am a mother, I'm not really in that super in-depth mothering stage because my kids are adults, right? They still need a mom, sure, but like the, you know, kissing the boobos and all that, like that's long since passed. So this is more, I think, tapping into me personally, and because I do only read for myself and my decks are for me and my practice is a part of my life and a part of how I connect to myself on a deeper level, how I learn, how I grow. I feel like this deck is really going to do a much better job at kind of helping me connect to that. And I do think the artwork is really charming. So yeah, I'm really excited to have this Wild and Sacred Feminine deck in my collection now to work with. Like I said, I think it's going to be a much better fit for me than my current version of the Mother's Wisdom. I think the creators have done an excellent job of taking all of that and kind of giving it new life in a more broad sense, kind of painting it with that broader stroke so that I think it'll be more open to a variety of different people rather than just being so tied into that one particular energy. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this look at the Wild and Sacred Feminine deck, which is the new deck by this creator trio here, which is a reimagining or a what did they call it? The next evolution of the Mother's Wisdom deck. And again, I think this one is much more open and I'm really excited to work with it. As always, you'll find links for everything that I've featured here in the description box below. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I look forward to sharing with you again soon.